Ma'am, maybe you should come back when you have a real account. That's what the bank clerk sneered loud enough for everyone to hear. The elderly widow shrank back, cheeks flushed, hands trembling. In the corner, a man slowly rose, a man in battered boots and a jacket stitched with scars of a forgotten war. He didn't shout, he didn't argue. He simply stepped forward and spoke just 7 words. Seconds later, the entire bank froze and the branch manager rushed out, pale as a ghost. If you believe true strength defends the voiceless comment, respect below. Elliot Ramsey, 73, a retired Army veteran, had seen his share of disrespect before, but rarely had it made his blood boil like today. The bank lobby hummed with the usual midday activity. Customers lined up for tellers, scrolled through phones, rustled papers. Elliot stood quietly in the line for teller 3, clutching a faded deposit slip in weathered hands. He hadn't planned on being here long, just a quick deposit from his pension check, then back home to finish repairing his fence before the afternoon rain. But then he noticed her at the next window. A frail elderly woman no more than 5 feet tall was struggling to explain her situation. Her gray hair was neatly pinned back, her coat worn but meticulously clean. Everything about her spoke of dignity, clinging to its last threads. "I'm sorry, but as I've explained 3 times now," the young clerk said without looking up from his screen, "you don't have the proper documentation to access this account." But she whispered, her voice shaking like autumn leaves, "It was our joint account. For 47 years my husband just passed and I need to pay for the balls or rules." He cut her off curtly. "No death certificate, no proper paperwork, no access. Come back later." "But it was our life savings," she pleaded, her voice barely audible. The teller sighed dramatically. "Ma'am, maybe you should come back when you have a real account." There's a line forming. A few snickers echoed from behind the glass partition where other employees watched with folded arms. One whispered something to another and both suppressed smiles. Elliot's jaw clenched. His gnarled fingers tightened around the deposit slip until it crumpled. Memories flashed before his mind. Soldiers he'd buried, promises made, and honored brothers who never came home. The oath he took decades ago hadn't expired just because his uniform now hung in a closet. "Next customer, please call the teller." But Elliot was already moving. He stepped out of line, deliberate, unhurried, and walked toward the widow's window. His boots, worn at the heels from years of use, made no sound on the polished floor. The floor manager spotted him approaching and barked, "Sir, stay in line or leave." Elliot didn't even blink. In a voice like gravel over steel, he said, "You're looking at the paperwork right now." He pointed at the widow. Confusion spread across the lobby. Customers paused mid-conversation. Phones were lowered mid-scroll. The clerk looked up annoyed. "Excuse me," I said, Elliot repeated slowly, each word measured and precise. "You're looking at the paperwork." Her face, her grief. "That's all the documentation you need to show some basic human decency." The clerk sneered. "And who exactly are you to make demands?" Elliot's next move changed everything. Elliot reached into his jacket, slow, deliberate, and pulled out a small battered leather case. The leather was cracked with age, smoothed by decades of handling. He didn't flip it open dramatically. He simply placed it on the counter and slid it toward the clerk. The clerk glanced down dismissively, then did a double take. Inside was a Medal of Honor, weathered but gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The gold eagle suspended from a blue ribbon seemed to catch every beam of light in the room. Gas rippled through the lobby. "Is that?" someone whispered. "It can't be real," another said. Some employees laughed nervously, thinking it was a prank or reproduction. One senior teller leaned closer and paled. She recognized it immediately, the highest military decoration awarded for valor in action against enemy forces. "Sir," the floor manager stammered, approaching cautiously, "while we appreciate your service, this doesn't change a bank policy." Elliot nodded slowly. "You're right," he said, his voice calm but carrying to every corner of the now silent room. "It doesn't change bank policy, it changes yours." He turned to the widow, whose eyes had welled with tears. "Ma'am, I believe they'll be helping you now." The floor manager's face flushed. "Now see here." Just then the branch doors burst open with such force that the security guard jumped. A group of sharply dressed men in women's suits, badges, serious faces swept in with military precision. Not police, not FBI, but something else entirely. They moved with the coordinated efficiency of people accustomed to command. One of them, a tall woman with salt and pepper hair cropped close to her skull, wore the insignia of a colonel on her lapel pin. The bank fell into stunned silence. The colonel didn't introduce herself to the staff. She didn't flash credentials or make demands. She walked straight up to Elliot, snapped into a crisp salute that spoke of years of discipline and said, "Commander Ramsey, sir. Orders from above." This staff stands down immediately. Confusion exploded around the room. "Commander," the floor manager echoed, his voice rising an octave. Customers whispered furiously. Employees backed away from their stations. The young clerk who had dismissed the widow was now frozen in place, his face drained of color. Elliot just sighed. "Not necessary, Colonel, but appreciated." The colonel smiled faintly. "With all due respect, sir, it is necessary. Secretary Holden sends his regards." The floor manager found his voice again. "Secretary Holden of the Treasury." "No," Elliot said quietly. The phones started recording from every angle of the lobby. A woman in a red coat whispered frantically into her cell phone. "You won't believe what's happening right now." The colonel turned to the bank staff, her voice brisk and professional. "Commander Elliot Ramsey, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient, Southeast Asia, 1969. Operation Iron Refuge rescued 17 men under heavy fire after their helicopter was shot down in enemy territory. 3 gunshot wounds. Refused evacuation until every man was accounted for." The floor manager swallowed audibly. "We had no idea." "That's rather the point." The colonel cut him off. "Heroes don't typically announce themselves. They don't need to." She turned to the widow, her demeanor softening immediately. "Ma'am, we're here to assist you if you'd follow me, please." As the colonel escorted the widow away from the counter, 2 of her team approached the manager. "We'll need your office now." The story was about to go viral. Elliot picked up his Medal of Honor case and returned it to his pocket. When he looked up, he found the entire bank watching him, some with awe, others with shame. The young clerk couldn't meet his eyes. An elderly man in the back of the line stepped forward, his back straightening as he approached. "3rd Infantry, 1971, he said, not offering a hand, but giving a short nod of recognition. "Iron Valor," Elliot replied quietly, using the division's nickname. "Damn right," the man said. Then after a pause, "Some things you never stop fighting for, do you, Commander?" Elliot's weathered face didn't smile exactly, but something in his eyes lightened. "Some oaths don't come with expiration dates." Outside, more vehicles were pulling up, news vans, more official-looking SUVs. The bank's regional director nearly tripped, rushing through the doors, his tie askew. The story would reach millions by nightfall. The widow was escorted to a private office, where her account was immediately verified and restored. Documents appeared with remarkable speed. Signatures were collected. Within 30 minutes she had access to the funds she needed. When she emerged from the office, her eyes were red but her shoulders stood straighter. The colonel walked beside her, not touching her but remaining close enough to offer support if needed. A senior vice president from the regional bank office arrived breathless, having broken several speed limits on his way. He offered public apologies to Elliot and the widow, his words tumbling over each other in his haste to contain the situation. "We will be conducting a full review of our protocols," he announced to the now packed lobby. "This is not how Summit Trust treats its customers, especially those who have sacrificed for our country." Meanwhile, the clerk and floor manager responsible for the humiliation were escorted to a different office, the door closing firmly behind them. Through the glass walls, their ashen faces were visible as they were informed of their immediate administrative leave. Elliot didn't ask for a medal, a parade, or a free account. He just made sure the widow walked out of that bank with her dignity intact, and with the funds she needed to bury her husband. By noon, the footage had hit social media. By 1 o'clock it had been picked up by local news. By dinner time it was running on national networks. Headlines read, "Veteran defends widow, colonel responds within seconds." Medal of Honor recipient shows a bank the meaning of honor. The 7 words that changed everything. "You're looking at the paperwork right now." Interviews flooded Elliot's voicemail, but he declined them all. A persistent reporter finally caught him in the grocery store parking lot the next day. "Why did you step in?" she asked, microphone extended. Elliot looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "I didn't do anything special," he said. "I just remembered what we were trained to do, protect those who can't protect themselves." The reporter persisted, "But you could have just stayed in line. It wasn't your problem." Elliot's weathered face hardened slightly. "Ma'am, when we start deciding whose dignity is our problem and whose isn't, we've already lost something precious." That soundbite played on every channel for days. Veterans groups rallied, organizing Operation Guardian, a program to station volunteers outside banks, grocery stores and public offices to ensure no elder was mistreated again. Within a week, over 5,000 veterans had signed up nationwide. Letters poured in from across the country. Senior citizens wrote to thank him. Children sent hand-drawn cards. Fellow veterans sent silent nods of recognition. A coin, a patch, A simple note, still serving. Elliot's action had sparked a movement larger than he could have imagined. The widow, Miss Lorraine Baxter, finally told her story to a local newspaper. Her husband, Raymond, had served as a field medic in Korea. They had been married for 47 years. The savings account contained exactly enough for a proper burial and 3 months of living expenses after that. "I don't know what I would have done," she said simply, "but now I won't have to find out." When asked about Elliot, her eyes filled with tears. "My Raymond would have done the same." She said that's how they were back then. That's how they still are. A month later, Summit Trust officially launched the Ramsey Code, a mandatory respect and dignity training program for all employees nationwide. It wasn't just about veterans or widows. It was about recognizing the humanity in every customer who walked through their doors. The program was developed with input from veterans organizers, senior advocates, and social workers. Its core principle was simple: dignity is not dependent on documentation. A plaque was installed in the very lobby where it all happened. It didn't bear Elliot's name or image at his insistence. It read simply, "To those who served and to those who still stand for others." Elliot never returned to that bank, but every time a widow, a veteran, or anyone vulnerable walked through its doors, they were treated with the dignity that had once been denied. Staff members were trained to recognize military insignias, to understand the unique challenges facing veterans and their families, and most importantly, to lead with compassion rather than policy. The young clerk who had sneered at Mrs. Baxter wrote her a personal apology letter. He later volunteered with a veterans outreach program, though whether from genuine remorse or career rehabilitation, no one could say for certain. 6 months after the incident, Elliot received a letter from the Secretary of Defense along with a challenge coin, bearing the Pentagon seal. The letter's contents remained private, but those close to Elliot said he read it several times before placing it carefully in the same drawer where he kept his Medal of Honor. On Veterans Day that year, Mrs. Baxter placed flowers on her husband's grave, then drove to Elliot's small ranch house on the edge of town. She brought him a home-baked apple pie and sat with him on the porch for over an hour. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. As she was leaving, she asked the question many had wanted to ask. How did the colonel know to come that day? Elliot smiled faintly. "I didn't call anyone if that's what you're asking." "Then how?" He pointed to his Medal of Honor pin, which he wore only on special occasions. "Someone recognized it and made a call. Word travels fast in certain circles. Like guardian angels," she said. Elliot just nodded. In the end, Elliot didn't need medals, parades, or viral fame. His legacy was built in the silence in the hearts of those who watched a quiet old man remind the world that strength isn't loud, it's steady, it's real, and sometimes it changes everything with just 7 words. Subscribe to Steelheart Stories. If you believe real heroes never ask for applause, they earn it by standing tall when it matters most.